Hi! As you can see, I'm surrounded by some beautiful moth orchids, which up until a few years ago I was really scared about growing. I think a lot of us are scared about moth orchids because they're so beautiful and they look so delicate. But they are in fact really easy to grow. They're epiphytic, which means they grow right in the crook of the tree, and they get their nutrients not from the tree but from the air. So they get nutrients in through the leaves and also in through these roots. Because the moth orchids take all the nutrients in from the air and their natural watering is actually rainwater, they don't want to sit in water at all. It's really important that you don't have their roots sitting in water. So when you come to water them, maybe once a week, once every fortnight, just depending on how hot it is, you can take them out of their pot. So if you take them out, plunge this into water so it's entirely covered in water, then take it out and let it drain really well. Leave it out for an hour or so, let it drain away, and then pop it back into your pot, ensuring that there's no water left in the bottom. So orchids like to live in quite well lit areas but not direct sunlight, because they're normally living under a forest canopy and they love humid conditions. So one thing you mustn't do is place them anywhere near an air conditioning unit, which would just dry them out. And if you think your house is feeling quite dry, skin's feeling dry yourself, give them a little bit of a moisture misty bottle like this and just cover their leaves, and then they can soak that up just as they would if they were living in their native habitats in Singapore or Malaysia. So your moth orchid lives in a plastic pot like this generally, and it receives its nutrients from the air. It doesn't receive any food from in here. So it's important that you feed it regularly with a proprietary orchid fertiliser. There's liquid ones and there are little spikes you can pop in, and that will really ensure that your orchid provides as many blooms as possible. Moth orchids like these just won't flower for weeks. They'll flower for months on end, as long as you don't overwater and you feed. This lovely specimen here was repotted last year from a small pot, from two small pots actually like this. This plant here is 9 years old and the plant on the left is 7 years old, and we combined them together last year to get this lovely display. And this one lives in the kitchen on the windowsill where it doesn't get direct sunlight but plenty of light, and of course it gets the mist or the heat and humidity in the kitchen when we're cooking, and it seems to just love that. Your moth orchid grows in a very loose bark mixture, and should you want to join 2 or 3 orchids together into a pot similar like this, it's important that you use a proprietary orchid mix like the Dalton's ones here, specially made for orchids. It's nice and loose and crumbly, so your orchid won't get too wet. Now I've got a slightly neglected orchid here just to show you. When your flower stems have finished, you need to trim it back. Now the thing is that you shouldn't trim it back down the bottom here. That is not the thing to do, or you'll be waiting months and months to get another stem of orchids. You can see here where it was trimmed last time, and it must have been trimmed up to about here, and then it would have died back down to this little node, and from there it produced a new flower stem. So when this one has finished flowering and this one is finished flowering, just drop it back down to here, and then you will get another flower stem either from this little node here, or another one may be produced down here, but most likely here. What you don't do is you don't cut it down here. So we can see how the little branches died back to here, and we'll just tidy that up now, like that, and this one here too. And then we'll just restake it, and we may get some more flower stems out of here and possibly out of there. So it pays just not to be too ruthless when you're trimming. You just don't know where it's going to produce the next stem. Now the moth orchids come in a range of different colours, and some are even spotted. This is just a few here. And a well-fed, well-cared for orchid can flower for up to 9 months of the year in New Zealand. So just to finish up, to keep your orchids looking as gorgeous as these, water regularly. Don't let your orchids sit in water. Feed them fortnightly with a proprietary orchid fertiliser. Keep them out of windy conditions, and they want to be kept in temperatures above 18 degrees. And then you'll have super duper orchids just like this, flowering and flowering at your house.